Hello, we're going to be going over the upcoming mid-year mage updates for Bran, Cass, Vlad, and Zyra. Mals and Vel'Koz handled it in an earlier video, annotation above. Sources for all of these comments at the Reddit thread linked below in the description. Let's get right into it. So for Bran, their playstyle will still be able to involve bursting down squishies. They'll be an AoE mage, but less of a lane bully. Perhaps most importantly, for many people, they will be balanced with support along with mid. For their passive Blaze, Riot says that it will be likely identical, and to quote, percent max health damage means they kill anything eventually, a strength that goes well with low mobility and moderate range. Seer has not received a lot of direct attention exactly on what's going to be changed about it. It's difficult to tell exactly what's going to happen with it. Probably going to remain roughly similar, but mechanically, we can expect probably some minor changes to the way, so that way it involves Bran having a little bit more strategy to suit those earlier stated goals. Pillar of Flame is almost exactly going to be identical. To quote, I 100% agree that Pillar of Flame is core to Bran and an awesome spell. Conflagration is a more tricky spell, and Riot has stated that they would rather have it changed a little bit, in fact, because, more quoting, it's tricky to tell. It serves as a glue to hold the rest together. On top of that, every time we try making E more awesome, it gets mandatory to cast in teamfights, which typically involves putting Bran way closer to danger than they'd prefer to be. Finally, as for Pyroclasm, it's difficult to tell to what extent it will be changed, but one thing's for certain, the damage Bran deals should not require luck. In direct reference to Pyroclasm, and that will likely be the case when it gets updated. For Cassiopeia, their playstyle. Riot does not intend to make Cassiopeia a poison mage, but rather a magician that utilizes poisons. They described this primarily in the idea of a magician that works primarily with DOTs, a poison mage, as opposed to just a mage like Cassiopeia who kind of has poisons within their kits, but that kind of DOT playstyle isn't integral to the way that they're intended to work. Second, and perhaps but most notably, there's going to be a significantly less reliance on Twin Fang and less sameness between Miasma and Noxus Blast, as they're often cast for the same reasons. To quote, Cassiopeia's poison spells will feel like they stand alone rather than feeling like slaves to Twin Fang. They'll have a brand new form of CC, a type that has not existed before. For their passive, Riot stated that our unnatural power curve makes it feel bad. We're not thrilled of how the passive is played out. I imagine our power curve will still skew toward late game, but probably not quite so drastically. And if anything, it would be great if the power curve felt more natural or less forced following the update. Noxious Blast is going to be more situational than W, and is unlikely to become a linear skill shot, as Riot doesn't feel that linear skill shots really fit Cassiopeia's playstyle. For Miasma, there's going to be more aspect on its zoning control aspect. It may be the one that receives the new CC or the ultimate, we aren't sure yet. And as the same things of Noxious Blast, it's going to be more situational, so they aren't cast at the same time, and it's also unlikely to become a linear skill shot. Twin Fang, it's going to be made less powerful, so the playstyle is less dependent on it, and is also going to involve significant less punishment if you do miss a spell and can't like cast Twin Fang over and over again. Imagine that Twin Fang does 65% of Cassiopeia's damage at the moment, with 35% elsewhere. We're probably looking at pulling things closer to 50-50, as Riot states. Finally, for Petrifying Gaze, there will likely be only slight changes, perhaps to the facing mechanic, because despite the gameplay not being perfect, Petrifying Gaze provides some really cool high moments. Vladimir is an interesting case. They've been noted as Riot previously as being one of the more unhealthy champions in the game. The playstyle differences include still being one of the best sustainers with the health costs to remain. They need more emphasis on this tides of blood stacking to provide more windows of opportunity for opponents to retaliate. Additionally, though Spell Vamp is considered a cool stat, they will likely have less synergy, especially against minions, so that way Spell Vamp can be functional more than just two champions. As Riot has noted before, that Vladimir is one of the reasons why Spell Vamp isn't allowed to be too strong. Their passive is unlikely to change, Crimson Pact. Vlad has always been the AP plus HP guy, and we think that's pretty cool, to quote. For Transfusion, one, and perhaps something a lot of people are interested in, it will not become a skill shot. Whoa, shock. And because not everything has to be a skill shot, we think retaining the old paradigm here is important to the spell's feel. Riot also noted that there will likely be some kind of a way for enemies to contest the health gain. Say, for the example they gave, was Vladimir perhaps using their Q on an enemy, and then the enemies being able to directly fight Vladimir to get their health back. Perhaps not the version they're going to be using, but just an example. Sangran Pool was considered very core to Vladimir, unlikely to be changed, iconic. Tides of Blood is a candidate for the largest changes, as Riot doesn't like the current way that its windows of opportunity aren't evident enough, nor impactful enough. It might have some proportional health spending as well. The quote, "We want the ability to enable Vlad to pay a lot if they want to, or a little if they can't, offering a proportional reward to the amount spent." Additionally, it's noted that it will still be an AoE spell. And finally, for Hemiplague, won't change very much, though it's not perfect, R has a unique effect and makes for some cool moments. So we decided to look elsewhere first. Finally, Zyra. Zyra's playstyle is going to be balanced around support, but their mid lane is significantly stronger. During playtest, Zyra's damage to champions at the end of the game has been consistently bananas. We'll have more emphasis on counter initiation as one of their primary aspects as well. For their passive Rise of the Thorn, I'm not going to show that off because it'll take me forever to get back to lane. It's considered the worst part of the kit by a wide margin and has an almost entirely complete reconstruction. Right, since people kind of missed passive, but not really that much. Additionally, it will not really involve death anymore. It's interesting to think about what it might involve, especially because Riot likes reusing models. So I imagine the model for Rise of the Thorns will still remain. For what purpose? Especially on skins like the Han and Zyra skin, which is a drastically different plant model for Rise of the Thorns. For Q, Deadly Boom. Riot stated that it feels unsatisfying right now because it only does damage, and will likely have a secondary effect probably involving more plant creation. Rampant Growth, the plants will likely have some of the biggest changes by far. There will be more plants, more ways to play around the plants, and likely involve harder counter initiation. To quote this long one, take the basic combo of "I want to EQ this guy with one plant of each type and an ult." There's side stuff in there about maybe casting E from a bush, or hitting extra people with E, where the R is centered, etc. Would you like there to be bits about getting more from your plants because they're doing X differently, or getting extra plants because they're doing Y, that kind of thing. Additionally, plants will likely have some stronger health scaling by late game. Whether that means that they'll lose the 3 damage health thing right here, or if they'll get like actual health, remains to be seen. Finally, plants will have better AI to focus down champions better. Grasping Roots was considered to feel fairly satisfying. It's almost certainly going to remain unchanged. And finally, Strangledorn was considered to be both distinctive and satisfying, and was noted to be likely unchanged as well.